Hi, welcome. My name is Cheryl Meyer, and I am Cheryl M. Health Muse. And I'm here to talk to you today about profit and loss. Okay, I know that got a few eyebrows raised. I'm not an accountant, I'm not a CPA, I'm not a banker, I'm not a broker, so what the heck do I want to talk about profit and loss for? Well, profit is what happens to your body when you are living healthy and eating correctly. And loss is what happens automatically, because if you have a weight issue, eating right and living right will automatically, eventually, allow you to drop the weight. And I know because I have lost 45 pounds doing this. Weight has been my nemesis my entire life, and weight loss was just a bonus in the story that I'm about to tell you. So, about 6 years ago, I got autoimmune disease. I was an entrepreneur. I have my own jewelry business. I'd had it for 20 years, and I was working 24/7. And I woke up one morning in horrific pain, and no matter what I did, I could not get my body to not hurt everywhere. So I went to the doctor, logical, and I told her what I was feeling. And she said, we'll run some tests. And then she came back and said, there's nothing wrong with you. It's in your head. So she sent me away. So I waited a couple of weeks, and then I went back to see her again. And I said, I hurt. It's really hard for me to function. I had terrible brain fog. I had chronic fatigue, and I hurt. So she ran a couple more tests and said, it's all in your head. And so just go home, it'll go away. So the third time I went back, she finally offered me steroids. But guess what? I am not gonna go taking pills that are gonna cover up my pain without finding out what was causing my pain. So I made a decision that I was going to own my own health, and I was going to start to research to try to figure out what the heck was wrong with me and what I was going to do about it. I stumbled across a new paradigm in medicine. It may not be so new right now, but 6 years ago, it was certainly new to me, and that's the functional community. And I watched over 20 different summits about different things that go wrong with the body, and most of them were different autoimmune diseases. And so I sort of figured out I probably had autoimmune disease, and what the message was autoimmune disease started in the gut. It was a result of leaky gut. So I started researching what was leaky gut. There were two things that I knew I could make changes on by myself that would start to heal my gut. The first one was to research and discover all the toxins in my life. And oh my God, I was shocked because they're everywhere. And then the second thing I knew that I could do right away is I could reduce my stress. I had always thought my stress was a very good thing. Being chased by that tiger got a whole lot of stuff done that motivated my business to move forward. But it wasn't good because one of the things we were going to discover later was that I had almost depleted all of my cortisol. I had no DHEA left over to replenish my cortisol, and it was one of the things contributing to, yes, leaky gut. So, I have lost 45 pounds living this way. My husband has lost 70 pounds living this way. And I want to explain to you my whole new philosophy about losing weight. But first I need to give you a little background of all the things I tried to lose weight along the way. If it was on the New York bestseller list, most likely I bought it and I tried it. But none of it was sustainable. And so I might have lost weight for short periods of time, but then I always expected that I was going to go right back to eating the way I was eating before I started whatever that book was about. I tried everything on the New York Times bestseller list. I tried Jenny Craig. I tried Weight Watchers. I tried OptiFast, which is a liquid diet that actually did have me lose weight very quickly. But again, it wasn't sustainable because eventually I wanted to eat real food. I tried Nutrisystem. Now that one kind of worked, but it only worked because the food was so vile, I didn't want to eat it. And again, the minute I decided I wasn't going to eat it, whatever weight I had lost returned immediately. I tried a diet where I could eat chocolate. I tried the high protein diets. I tried the low carb diets. I eliminated sugar, which ended up being a good thing because when I started my new eating regime, that was an important thing that I needed to do yet again. And I even tried the Mediterranean diet, which is not a bad diet, but it doesn't eliminate the toxins that are messing around with your body system that's causing you to hold on to the weight in the first place. So none of this had me paying attention to the toxins in my diet or the key to eat nutrients and building blocks that were going to actually aid my body in my health. So in other words, I had a complete change of point of view. I started eating clean and then I started losing weight. So there are hundreds of ways to diet, and in fact, IIN very proudly talks about the fact that there are 110 different ways to eat in their program. And frankly, I don't care about any of them. I care about teaching people to eat to live, not live to eat. And that's the critical point when you're trying to coach a client to lose weight. All of those old diets were very complicated. They had lots of rules that were difficult to follow. I was thinking about food all the time. I was doing the Last Supper the night before I started the diet because I knew I wasn't going to be eating foods I loved for a long time. So the diets were really deprived. And then as soon as the diet was over, I was back to eating the same way that I always did before. So learning to eat clean, learning to eat to fuel your body with lovely nutrients is really the key to long-term health, and the benefit is long-term weight loss. So with any plan, with my plan, you're never going to count calories again. Calories really don't matter. You're not going to be exercising to burn calories because calories don't matter. You are going to be eating good fats to fuel your body and your brain. And you're going to be eating lovely nutrients that will give your body all the building blocks it needs to build a healthy you. Now, by changing how I ate, I also started to reverse some of my pain. I knew I had to find a functional doctor, and so I started looking for one, and I found one that's an hour away, but having a root cause approach to my autoimmune disease literally saved my life. But in the meantime, I was moving towards a healthy body that included the beginnings of a loss of weight. So that was a big win. My focus was totally on getting healthy, and the loss was a byproduct of that healthier life. And I didn't think that I was ever going to go back to a different way of eating. I was going to learn to eat right so that I could support my body so that I would not be in pain anymore. So the next thing that people started asking me after what diet should they follow is should they eat paleo or should they eat vegan? And frankly, I don't care. What I do care is that 3/4 of your plate should be beautiful vegetables grown as locally as possible. Now I'm in Los Angeles, so that's easier said than done for some of you. But you want to eat food that is as close to the source as possible of all the colors of the rainbow, because each color has a special gift that your body needs in order to function optimally. And then whether you eat soy or some vegan protein or you eat meat, I really recommend that your protein source is only the size of a deck of cards on your plate. 3/4 of your plate is vegetables, and I recommend that half of those vegetables are raw and half of those vegetables are cooked. And that's the beginning of giving your body the great building blocks that it needs to support your body to be well. So you have to start. Second thing is you got to find all the toxins, and the toxins literally are everywhere. When I wrote this book, Learn to Eliminate Toxins, Reverse Inflammation, and Feel Great Again, what I did was chronicle all the places that I found toxins. They're in our food. You want to make sure as much as possible that you buy organic. At least start with something called the Dirty Dozen, and then you can eat the things that are on the Clean 15. If you don't know about the Dirty Dozen, which is now 18 items, you can find it on ewg.org. But I'm also giving you a card that you can cut out when you print it that's the right size for you to fit into your purse, so you always have it with you when you're grocery shopping. I went further than that. I was motivated. I didn't want the toxins, and the more I learned about the toxins being sprayed on their food, I really didn't want them in my body because they were aggravating my pain. So I eliminated as many toxins as possible. But if you start with the Dirty Dozen Plus, that's a great place for you to start coaching your clients. I also studied GMOs and was appalled to understand that they had actually bred foods that had the Bt toxin right in it. And if it wasn't that type of genetically modified food, they were making it Roundup ready, which means that they could spray excessive amounts of glyphosate on it, which doesn't get wiped off, that goes into your body. So if you're going to tell me that it's good for you to be eating pesticides and herbicides, you got a lot of convincing to tell me that's how I'm supposed to eat. So I give the whole argument. I also talk about how our conventional produce is grown. It's also sprayed with heavy amounts of glyphosate and other toxins. So you need to clean up your food and you need to start cooking, because only by cooking can you control what goes into your mouth, which means you're controlling what goes into your body. Other places that I found the toxins, I found them in canned goods. I found them in dairy. I found them in conventional meat. I do eat meat. I am paleo, but I only eat what I call clean meat. Cows that have fed on grass for their entire diet, pigs that are pastured, chickens that are pastured, eggs from chickens that are pastured. Lamb, we're pretty lucky there because they only eat grass, so lamb is safe. And then fish that is wild, because any of the other types of meat that's conventionally produced is really in a ton of hormones and antibiotics and things that are just complicating your health that your body can't recover from. So eating clean meat is critical. I talk about oils. There are good oils and there are bad oils. So I want you to only use the good oils and advise your clients to only use the good oils, which are coconut oil and ghee. I end up that I'm allergic to dairy, so I can have ghee because the milk solids, which are the milk proteins, are removed from ghee, so I'm not sensitive to it. Avocado oil, grapeseed oil, these are all great oils. Olive oil is not good to cooking, but it's very good to use for salads and other purposes for oil. But you got to be careful with even olive oil because the mafia has gotten involved. So I recommend that before you do the research, you start buying California olive oil because it's controlled, that it's only olive oil. And then you can buy some beautiful olive oils from Italy and Spain when you start to research, because they are now certified as being 100% olive oil instead of being cut by the mafia with all kinds of low-end oils that don't do your body good. After food, I looked into cosmetics. I was buying very expensive cosmetics that were poisoning me. I looked into all my over-the-counter drugs, which were causing leaky gut. So I no longer use any over-the-counter drug at all. And I talk about what I've replaced all that with so that I feel great. I talk about the poisons in your kitchen, from your kitchen tools to how you store your food. I talk about water. Oh my God. I thought that the only city that had a problem with lead was Flint, Michigan. Not true. A lot of cities in America have very, very polluted water. So I added a filter to my tap water, and I no longer carry it in plastic at all because the plastic leaches horrific toxins into the water that poison us. And so I've eliminated all that by buying stainless steel bottles and filling them with my own filtered water, and then I bought big jugs that are stainless for when I'm going to be out of the house longer than one bottle's worth of water. From there, I went into toxic stress, toxic lack of sleep, toxic ants, which are anxious, negative thoughts, toxic lack of movement. Okay, I'm not exercising to burn calories anymore. I'm exercising because it's healthy for my body, and I'm making sure that I do all three types of exercise, which are resistance, aerobic, and stretching for flexibility. And then finally, I looked into toxic relationships because I was in one and it ended, and that was a critical part of me getting well and turning my health around. And I actually took a seminar from a woman named Allison Armstrong to learn how to find the right kind of guy, and met a terrific one. And I've now been married to him for 3 years. So toxic relationships are out of my life. All of those cause toxins in your body, and all of those toxins cause you to hold on to the weight because they don't allow your body to function optimally. So don't focus on weight loss, focus on health. And I want to tell you about my very first client. She had inflammation, and I had told her when I first met her that I thought she had inflammation. No. And then when I ran into her again 6 months later, she told me she had actually been diagnosed with autoimmune disease, and would I help her? And not only did she want to get rid of the pain, but she wanted to lose weight. So she had a girlfriend that wanted to lose weight too, but she wanted to hire me as her coach to help her do it. And there was a fair amount of resistance in the beginning. First, she didn't want to feel deprived, and so I told her I would teach her how to make really yummy food that was good for her. And then secondly, I told her we weren't going to diet. We were going to learn to eat right. And her girlfriend immediately bought one of the bestsellers off the New York Times list, and so we both shot out of the cannon at the same time. And in the beginning, the girlfriend was losing weight, and my client was not. But she was learning lots of healthy tricks in terms to how to get more colors of the rainbow into her body, how to cook her own food like a quick order chef, how to just be eating to live and not living to eat. And I was sharing some of my tricks about how to cook, to eat delicious food, and still get all those beautiful nutrients. After the first 2.5 months on our session, she admitted to me that she had lost 20 pounds and her girlfriend had gained 10. So now we had a believer. Because when you give your body all of this great stuff, your body really wants you to heal. So it's really critical that when you're working with a client, that you're teaching them how to eat long-term for optimal health. Now, what does this eliminate? I'm in a lot of health coaching groups, and I see a lot of discussions about, oh, I have a client, and I'm trying to help her eat right, and she's not losing weight. And so what could she be doing? She must not have willpower, and she must be cheating, and she must be doing this, and she must be doing that. Having heard those things all my life, I got to tell you how that did not motivate me. The truth was, my body was all screwed up, and my body functions were not working properly. So no matter what I did, I was not losing weight. And even eating this way, after losing 45 pounds, I stopped dead. So why is that? There's a wonderful book I want to recommend to you called Accidentally Overweight by Libby Weaver. Libby is a biochemist, and this book is brilliant because although it's called Accidentally Overweight, really everyone should read this book because it talks about each body system and what can go wrong with it and how to know if it's not working optimally and then what to do to fix it. And then once you get that down and you work on that, you can move to the next body system. So first you might learn about the liver and what causes your liver not to be functioning properly and what you can do to fix it. And then you move on to your pancreas and how that fits in with your liver and how to know if it's not working optimally and what you can do to fix it. And then you move on to the next body system, which might be your hormones. It's a brilliant look at the fact that if your body isn't like a symphony, doing what the conductor is telling it to do, it's going to hold on to the weight, it's going to hold on to the toxins, and it's going to hinder your client from losing weight. So it's great to get this perspective. So first you need to convince your client that learning how to eat well for the rest of her life is not only going to be critical to her health, but it's going to be critical to her losing weight. And then if she stops losing weight somewhere along the line, it's time to find a functional doctor to help her lose the next part of the weight, where you partner with the functional doctor to help keep her on track with the lifestyle changes that she's making for maximum health. So what did I discover when I went to the functional doctor? Ooh, all kinds of beautiful things. She did start peeling away different parts of my body that were not functioning properly, like I was an onion. The first thing we discovered was that my cortisol was completely whacked. So we started working on improving my cortisol levels. I had no DHEA left, which is what the body makes cortisol from. So we started with how to increase my DHEA so that then we could increase my cortisol so that my hormones started working better. Then we looked at my thyroid. My conventional doctor had only looked at the thyroid, what happened from the brain to my thyroid. It didn't look at what the thyroid signal was that was going on to my adrenals. And so that wasn't working properly. I didn't have the right balance of T3s and T4s. So we started working on balancing my thyroid. And you probably all know that thyroid is very connected to weight loss. So I lost little bits of weight as we were making these discoveries, but we had not yet found the root cause. I then did the 23andMe test, sort of as a sideline to what my doctor was doing, and I didn't realize that one of the benefits of doing that was I got my entire DNA history as part of that test. So when I mentioned it to my doctor, she wanted to see it immediately and discovered that I have something called the MTHFR anomaly in my DNA, which means that I don't detox easily. I always knew I didn't sweat. Well, it's partly because I have this anomaly to my DNA. And so what went into my body stayed in my body. So we started trying to correct that, and that also helped me lose a little weight, but it was not the whole picture. From there, we tested heavy toxic metals. My joke had always been that I had popped out allergic to Pittsburgh because when I was born, the little town that we lived in was a steel mill town, and I remember them oiling the streets to keep the coal dust and the steel dust down. Well, I popped out literally allergic to Pittsburgh, and my father made the decision that when I was 4, if we stayed there, I might not grow up to be an adult. So we moved to California, and then instantly some of my allergies were abated. But because I had the MTHFR anomaly, all of those things that went into my body as a child were still in my body. And they started coming up in odd little ways. I would have little rashes show up on my face and I wouldn't know what caused it, and then it would go away. I was constantly being tested for allergies, but I didn't realize that there was a difference between allergies and sensitivities. So my doctor tested for sensitivities. Bingo! I have 18 of them to different foods and herbs and spices, and to have done an elimination diet would not have done me any good because, of course, my body is not sensitive to any of the normal culprits. That's not completely true. I am sensitive to dairy, I am sensitive to soy, and those are regular culprits, but I'm also sensitive to stuff like basil and sage and mustard and fennel and artichokes, which I love. And green beans of all things. So I have 18 of them. I've actually printed them up on a little business card so that I never forget what they are so that I can avoid them. Now, 2 things happen when I eat my sensitivities. The first thing is I can gain 5 pounds overnight because it immediately triggers what's called a flare to my autoimmune disease, and I blow up like a balloon. I can see it in my face, and it comes with 5 pounds, and it takes me a while to get it back off. So trust me, I'm motivated to stay away from my sensitivities. But the other thing is, it just is what's causing my leaky gut. So it was critical that I find my sensitivities so that I could continue to heal my leaky gut and allow my body to function the way it's supposed to. So we keep looking now for more things that are possibly my root cause because I still am not losing weight as freely as I would like to. So the next thing we test for is mold, and I'll be darned, I'm loaded with them. How I ended up with a ton of toxic load in my body, I cannot tell you. And I will tell you that doing these detoxes, since I don't detox easily, makes me sick while I'm doing it, but it's well worth it by the time it's done. But even detoxing for mold has not gotten me to my root cause, and losing the last pounds is still a challenge. So we tested for herbicides and pesticides. You remember all those lovely chemicals being sprayed over all of our produce. And yep, I'm loaded with them. Now, I'm a little city girl, so how did I get loaded with herbicides and pesticides? I have no idea. I have something called essential tremor, which means that I shake, and it ends up that one of the chemicals that is in pretty large quantities in my body is related to something they're spraying on our food, and it's related to, of all things, Agent Orange. So it's even a bigger incentive for me to continually eating organic. And the next thing up for me to detox is all of these herbicides and pesticides. And yep, I'm loaded with glyphosate too. So losing weight isn't as simple as cutting down how much food you eat. It's much more complicated than that. And your role is to help your clients do as much as they can so that your client eats for optimal health. And then you want to help direct her and partner with somebody who can help her when she's at the end of how much she can lose on her own, when she's exercising, she's controlling her stress, she's getting 7 hours of sleep. There's a new book out that talks about the fact that sleep might even be more important to stress, to health. You need to get those 7 hours of sleep because that last hour is when your brain does like its final clean sweep that gets all the plaque cleaned out of your brain so that you can function the way you're supposed to. So taking care of your stress, your sleep, controlling your anxious thoughts, and training your inner champion to rule your mind instead of your inner critic, doing the exercise, getting rid of toxic relationships, all of this is a part of getting your body to run like a symphony. So the whole key of this and what I'm talking about is just view weight loss from a totally different lens and stop accusing your client that they don't have enough willpower and that they're not following your directions and eating correctly, because they very may well be, and all you're doing is frustrating the heck out of them when you're doing that. So focus on health. Accept that this new life is at your core, and have your clients understand that it's a whole new way of life for the rest of their life. So I'm going to give you some free handouts with this. I'm going to give you the 12 steps to eating healthy and a healthy life. I'm going to give you where the toxins were and what to do about it. I'm going to give you a free chapter of my book. And all of this will help you in guiding your clients towards eating properly, eating all the different colors, eating as close to the farm as possible, and eating and living a good life. So I don't know about you, but I was taught that there were children starving somewhere in the world, and therefore, no matter what, I was going to eat everything that was on my plate. The one thing that I have started doing is I eat from a smaller plate, and that too has helped. Not because I'm controlling calories, but because I'm eating from a smaller plate, I am not continuing to eat once I'm full. I didn't go into sugar. It's critical that you stop the sugar and that you detox off of it. I was sick as a dog for 3 weeks when I did it. It was like I was detoxing from some heavy drug. But one of the things I've learned about sugar is there is a direct connection between sugar and some hormones that regulate how hungry you are. And by stopping the sugar, you reset that thermostat so that your body and your mind actually knows when you're not hungry anymore and will stop you from eating. I used to eat huge Thanksgiving dinners and still think I was hungry, and I couldn't figure out why that was. Well, it was because my thermostat for my hunger hormones was all screwed up. So cutting out the sugar, which means cutting out the soda, that's critical too to long-term weight loss. So people ask me constantly, are my husband and I deprived in terms of how we eat? And I will tell you, absolutely not. Frankly, I was more deprived back in the days when I was following all those weight loss books than I am now, because I was not eating anything that I wanted to eat, and so it wasn't sustainable. The way I eat now is totally sustainable, and since I have 18 sensitivities, I will admit to you that I cook very weird, but I have learned to make really yummy foods because both my husband and I are foodies. So trust me, we're going to find a great way to feed ourselves. And our joke when we sit down a lot of times for dinner is, woo, we are really deprived as we're eating Dungeness crab and beautiful vegetables. I do make desserts. I make them using just a little bit of either maple syrup or coconut sugar or honey, so that at least there are some trace elements of healthy things in the little bit of sugar that I use. We do find and eat some organic sourdough bread, which I'm not terribly sensitive to gluten. I know that there's a lot of thought that gluten causes leaky gut, but for me, my gut is healing, and so I don't eat a lot of it, but it is my treat. And I make crazy things like white sauce out of creamed, steamed cauliflower, throw it in my Vitamix with a cup of soaked cashew nuts and make white sauce. And out of that white sauce, I might make clam chowder. I might make a cream sauce so that I can have Swedish meatballs. I do all kinds of crazy stuff that ends up being really yummy, and it replaces all those icky old foods that I used to eat. I will tell you, when I first started to change to eat healthy, I missed a lot of those icky old foods. I don't miss them at all anymore. In fact, when I'm watching television and I see commercials for some of this food, it's like blah, because I can't eat that way anymore, and it's not even appealing to me anymore. So if you can convince a client to eat this way with you for 3 to 6 months, their body will vote, they'll be a believer, they'll continue eating this way for the rest of their life, and then the profit is a great feeling body, and the loss is the weight that will start to come off naturally, so that they meet those goals that they've wanted to meet for their entire life. So where do you find me? My website is CherylMHealthMuse.com. That's Cheryl with a C, CHERYL, M, Health, Muse, MUSE.com, because I want to inspire my clients to a healthier life. My book is available either on my website or on Amazon, and I talk about not only the toxins that I found, but how I researched them, what I replaced them with, and then how to research for others if what my choices aren't right for you. And if you do buy my book, or you recommend that your client buys my book, if they email me at CherylMHealthMuse@gmail.com, I'll send a workbook so that they can keep track of the toxins, that when they define them, they write them down. When they run out of it, they write down what the new thing is that they're going to replace it with. It took me 5 years to reduce all these toxins in my life, and there are hundreds of them. So it doesn't have to be overwhelming. It can be very systematically gone at, chapter by chapter. You print the chapter in the workbook, you read that chapter, you write down what you find is toxic in your life, what you're going to replace it with, and you put it in a binder, so when you run out of that product, you have it easily at your fingertips to replace it. So you can either buy my book on my website, or you can buy it on Amazon. And if you follow me, I send out great newsletters, really focused a lot on toxins, but also on other methods of health that I'm discovering as I'm moving forward. And I am writing a second book, which is going to be, how do I live this way? How do I live? How do I take water in my stainless steel jugs so that I never have to buy plastic water again? What do I do when I'm out for 8 hours and I'm hungry and I'm not going to go through fast food? What do I do to eat? And how do I handle that? How do I go out to dinner at a restaurant? I call ahead and negotiate with the chef. And then when I get to the restaurant, I give them my card. It's got my picture on it so that if they can't remember who gave them the card, they can find me again. And then they have it. Sometimes some restaurants actually even keep it on file because they love the fact that I'm so organized that I give it to them. I'm going to talk about all the things that I do to cook like a quick order chef. It's just going to be my guide to how do I live this way without being deprived. We traveled, we went to Europe. I printed my card in French so that the French would cook around my idiosyncrasies. The people we were traveling with, they're never going to cook for you. They loved it that I had the card in French. They all came and patted me on the shoulder and then went to the kitchen and made me something really very amazing. So there are ways to do this, whether we travel by car someplace far away like Sedona or San Francisco. I live in LA. We are always prepared without a whole lot of thought to eat correctly wherever we go. So it's a new way of life, it's a new way to lose weight, and it's a new way to eat for the rest of your life. Thank you so much for listening to me. It's really my pleasure to share all of this with you. Thank you.